Okay, welcome to the latest United pubcast for another episode. It seems we're knocking these episodes out every couple of days now, or every night even. I'm joined by Rob, who has been on the podcast before, but also co-host of the IFT pod. It's doing very well at the moment. Yep, 100 subscribers yet, Rob?
Yeah, hit it today, the mini milestone.
No, beautiful. So we'll leave a link to that in the description. I'm sure a lot of you do follow that anyway, but if you haven't, please do it. It's a very good podcast. Obviously, this is all United related, but he's on there with a Chelsea and an Arsenal mate, unfortunately, discussing a little bit more Premier League action, which is very intriguing this time. And you do have a special guest. Tell the guests who you've got on next week.
Yeah, big announcement. We're hooked up with Fabrizio Romano. So yeah, it should be a good here we go for us. See if we can draw a bit of a crowd and get something out of him. It'll be nice. So yeah, big appearance coming up within the week.
Okay, no, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you are tuned in live, we're just going to talk about one or two topics. We'll mainly just see whatever anyone else wants to discuss. So throw your comments in. There's one or two questions on Twitter sort of we'll go to, but maybe a quick 20, 25-minute video just discussing the latest. And throw in your comments, any questions, and we'll pretty much just interact and discuss that. As I said, there is nothing on TV at the moment during lockdown, so something for Australian fans to get involved with. But in regards to a little bit of news that is out there, we'll start on the Ruben Neves news. And I don't know where it sort of stemmed from or who the source was, but a lot of the reporting is around Bruno's side of things, saying Bruno is suggesting Ruben Neves. Just your thoughts on that. We'll get into the player and if it's a good signing or a bad signing, etc. But what's your opinion, Rob, in regards to a player, whether it's true or not, a player suggesting to a manager, this is the player we should go and sign? Do you think that's something that happens, or do you think that's a bit lazy journalism? Can you not see a scenario where that happens, or what are you thinking?
I think it could be the bit of both worlds, to be honest. I could more see it, if anything, maybe a manager going to a player and saying, hey, you know him from the national team, he's Portuguese, we're looking at him, we're scouting him a bit. Have you got a good relationship? Is he a good bloke off the pitch as well? So it could be a combination of both. In terms of player, look, the silly season's in full swing. The Camavinga rumours have all kind of died down. So it's like, look, we need someone else to throw in there. But Neves is not a bad shout, man. And I think we're saying, 30 million? They're happy to let him go from what rumours are saying. Look, your typical Portuguese, technical and both tactical player. Again, with everyone shouting for a CDM, defensive midfielder. I think he might slot into the team nicely if it was to happen. Good passer. He's got a good long range shot on him. So yeah, it's not a bad sign if it was to happen.
Well, what do you think of the actual player? Because look, I don't watch Wolves every week. However, Wolves are a team that sort of always pop up, and you do sort of find yourself watching a lot of their games, especially in regards to the highlights. And obviously, Neves, he's never short of a highlight. I mean, every second week he seems to put it in the top corner. But we're clamouring for this centre defensive midfielder. And we know, okay, he's not going to displace Pogba, he's not going to displace Bruno. But from what I've seen of Ruben Neves, and again, I don't watch the 90 minutes every week, I do see, while he does maybe take up maybe a deeper role, he is, in my mind, an advanced midfielder. He is someone who creates and gets forwards on the end of things. I'm just thinking, is he, from what you know, from what you've seen of him, but also, in my sort of opinion, he's almost got that Donny van der Beek mold where he's got the attributes where he can be. We're trying to find where we can fit Van der Beek in. So he's not going to be one of the advanced midfielders. So maybe he can do a job at number 6. Is that where you see Ruben Neves, where he's actually more suited to further up the field? However, if we are to get him, and you have the option of Fred, McTominay, or Neves, you'd play Neves by himself in there?
Look, man, I definitely agree with you. All the times I've seen him as well, he does like to get forward, box to box, if you know what I mean. But look, I wouldn't call him as a defensive player as like a Matic or a Fred who we have. Like I said, maybe he could be, like you said perfectly, a bit more in that kind of Van der Beek / Scott McTominay, like, happy to go both ways, but not just a sitter. So, like I said, an interesting, like if it was to be 3 in midfield and it was like a him, you'd probably have to do like 2 sitters and Bruno on top of the diamond or something like that, if it was to be like that. But if it was to go just for a 2 in front of him and just a 1 sitter, like you said, it might be not as defensive as we need him to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you to Anthony Antonio saying their greetings, but also your mate and co-host of the IFT, Scott, says, yes, nice to see 2 legends on my screen. Unfortunately, Neves looks like going to Arsenal. Your thoughts on that in terms of, I think Neves is definitely going to leave. Wolves are in a situation now where I think a lot of clubs are obviously in desperate need of money, and Ruben Neves is a valuable asset to them, and they can see an option where, okay, Wolves have, I wouldn't say have started to plateau, but they were obviously on a rise for 2 years, and they reached that certain level. Now they're thinking, okay, well, now we'll sort of readjust things or reevaluate things, obviously change the manager, etc. And Ruben Neves is one of the players, besides maybe Adama Traore. Those two players are the ones. Is a Traore still at Wolves? I assume he is. He hasn't
I think
sold.
he is, yeah.
Okay, so they've still got two valuable assets there where in their situation they will need to sell one. So obviously Scott's there mentioned the Arsenal link. Do you see, regardless of those two clubs, do you see Neves actually being on the move this year?
Well, I don't know how long he's got on his contract, to be honest. If he's got like 1 year left on his contract, then yeah, fair enough. 30 million, they'd probably take it. Like I said, they've got an asset, put it back into the club, maybe buy a few cheaper players buy 1 or 2 players for him going out. But yeah, like I said, I don't really know his whole contract details and stuff. If he's got like a couple of years, I don't think anyone's gonna be like saying, yeah, you have to go, unless he wants a bit more of a challenge and wants to maybe use Wolves as a stepping stone to get to a bigger club. Then fair enough. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to disappoint Scott here, the only Arsenal fan in the chat, but George has said if we do get in a bidding war with Arsenal, there's only one winner, and it's not them, and that does give us some confidence. United at the moment, obviously not spending last season. We do obviously seem to have a little bit of cash ready to go this summer.
And like I said, having Bruno, if he was looking for a move, obviously having a teammate in Bruno would be an extra bonus for us, I'd say.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now we'll move on to the next bit of news before we sort of answer some of the comments and questions from Twitter, etc. We discussed a little bit. We've got a group chat going, and news has come out that Luke Shaw was playing in the Euros with broken ribs. Now, how accurate that is, I'm not too sure. Again, always not too sure after I mentioned Luke Shaw. No pun intended. I don't know if a player can play with broken ribs. Maybe it is something they can play with. From what I've known, I've never broken any ribs. That would be extremely unlikely. However, the photo did come off when he obviously did have strapping, so there's obviously an injury there. Fair play to him if it was broken ribs in terms of playing through the pain barrier. However, we're not England fans, obviously an Italian fan. Again, congratulations on the Euros, but from a Man United point of view, when we're looking at it, okay, yes, you have to put yourselves in the player's situation, say how proud it is to represent their country, of course, 100%. But we're Man United fans and we're sort of very protective of our own. We've seen Rashford go play injured. Now we've seen Luke Shaw potentially go and play with a real serious injury, likely now going to miss the start of the season. Your thoughts, because I know we were talking about it, and you can understand the bigger context from Luke Shaw's personal ambitions, but you do look at it now from a career point of view, and especially a Man United point of view, and it looks, okay, he did score in the final, but ultimately they lost, and now it looks a stupid decision.
Well, yeah, firstly, like you said, if he was playing with broken ribs, good on him, because like no one noticed for 3 games apparently playing with broken ribs and apparently a couple of injections and padding and stuff like that. You'd think broken ribs you'd barely be able to breathe, let alone getting hit in contact and stuff like that. But look, I think I've upset a few people because like I seen one of the people post online and I said, look, I'm a bit upset with it, to be honest, for depending on what you read. I've read that the club said, hey, we want you to come back to see how you are. We don't want you to get any more injured. And some people reporting he said no. Some people reporting he's just gone on and said, no, I'm happy to continue with the England squad. So for me, like I said, as a United fan, he's been in the best form of his life and we want him in a great condition for the start of the season. Yeah, he might be a week or two late, obviously, because England made all the way to the final. But yeah, I think it's a risk if he did have broken ribs and he could have further made a bigger injury, then I'm sure all the boys at United it's affecting the club and Ollie.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, it always comes back to the point which I made over the last couple of episodes. And I'm so intrigued with the preseason and Alex Telles. One, he has a transfer cloud over him. Obviously, a few Italian clubs in Roma and Italy are quite interested. Now, United's stance is they don't want to let him go. Telles has done 1 or 2 interviews and it suggests it's very much the obvious answer, saying I'm focused on United and I want to succeed here. But I do think if he has a good not even a good preseason, if he's fit throughout preseason, he'll start the season at left back for us. And from what I've seen of Telles, if he plays well, okay, Luke Shaw has been the best in Europe, but Luke Shaw will then have the challenge, which is a good challenge. He'll have to displace Alex Telles because there could be a stage now where Telles might be the first 2 months of the season. If he seriously has broken his ribs and he's going to need sort of proper treatment on it, it might be a while before we see Luke Shaw, unfortunately. He might be in the same category as Marcus Rashford. But what we'll do now, we'll go on to some Twitter questions and Facebook questions, etc. But you can also do it in the comments as well. Whatever you want us to discuss, throw it in the comments. We'll put it up and we'll see if we can discuss it if it's not already said on Twitter. But a few questions came through on Twitter today. First one from Andrew at madmuzz_196. Maybe we'll just go back to the Neves sort of discussion a little bit. Say we don't get Neves, out of the players we have, who can play that? Because there is that rumour that Solskjaer wants to play that 4-3-3. So if we're just going to play with one number 6, who can occupy that defensive midfield role? Like, would it be probably candidates at the moment, Matic, Fred and McTominay? You can throw maybe your opinion, you can maybe throw Donny van de Beek in there. But at the moment, you're looking at how the Sancho deal dragged on for 2 years. Varane's dragging on for a couple of weeks now. That's probably a few weeks away. Evidence would suggest if we're going to spend that much time on Varane, a midfield is probably quite not likely. So at the moment, if we don't bring in that midfielder, how do you see that single number 6 playing?
Well, personally, I'm a big Matic fan, and like I said, I keep thinking, how old is he? I actually had a quick look just before we started. He's only 32, and look, depends how you look at it. If he has a big preseason and he's fit, I still think he could do a job. That's his position. He's a defensive midfielder. We've seen many a times he likes to drop as far as centre back to get the ball. He's really good at playing it forward. He's got the height. I trust him. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Matic. Like I said, obviously he definitely hasn't been in front of just your McFred at the moment. Obviously they're the favourites of Ollie at the moment. But yeah, I think we've got a bit of depth there if we don't get anyone. But yeah, for me, I personally like Matic. But obviously the Fred and McTominay have been playing there.
Yeah, no, look, I'm definitely in that category. And I didn't see myself in that category years ago, sort of almost when Matic first came in. I think he's been very good for United and underrated. And ultimately, yeah, I think he gets this sort of clamour almost in the same one matter sort of mould where, he's too old. But then you do look at the age and he's not that old. It's kind of a misconception and he has done very well. The other thing does come down to, even though I've just said he's not too old, can you pin your hopes on him being your number 1 centre defensive midfielder for over a season's over 50, 60 games? And that is regardless of anyone's age. Does he have the fitness for that? Does he have not the fitness in terms of injury record, but just the natural fitness? Like that takes you look at Bruno and Maguire, they're the only 2 that seem to do it. Everyone else does need a couple of weeks out of here and there to refresh the battery. So that is a challenge for Matic. But as I said, if we are playing well, and you're not always going to play well, but if you're dominating and playing well and winning football matches, I think our strongest midfield in terms of the way we want to play football would be Matic sitting by himself and then Pogba and Bruno going doing their thing. Now, ultimately, if Pogba and Bruno aren't playing well, that puts a lot of stress on Nemanja Matic to play there by himself, and ultimately it might not work in that way. But if we are confident and winning games, I think that is probably the best recipe. But as I said, we need to be winning games, and that's going to be harder, easier said than done. Tom Greenwell from up in Brisbane, just a little bit on the goalkeeping situation. Now, we discuss this every single week, but the way I sort of want to sort of point this is he has said he's absolutely perplexed at the thought of going into the season with Henderson and De Gea both still on the books and alongside Tom Heaton. So instead of the Henderson De Gea debate, which we seem to always have, just want to get your opinion on so many transfer rumours in and out, etc. And Solskjaer even mentioned at the end of last season in regards to De Gea and Henderson saying, look, okay, that it worked for this season, but going into next season, having both of them, it's not quite feasible. Something's going to have to happen. That's even Solskjaer saying that. You look at transfer rumours, though, there's no smoke at the moment. Both of them are still staying. There's no real rumours of De Gea going to PSG or Atletico Madrid or Henderson going to Chelsea or West Ham or wherever. There's no smoke at all. So at the moment, it does look like both are going to stay. And as Solskjaer said, and as we all say, it's not really feasible. Like, the way it worked out last season, it was the best case scenario. It worked. It wasn't ideal, but a bad situation was managed quite well by Solskjaer, and the situation around De Gea going to Spain for a little bit, etc. It worked out okay. It's not going to happen 2 years in a row.
No, it's not. But like I said, it's going to be very hard for Ollie, especially like I said, there's been no smoke. It's the money that's probably the biggest deterrent for, especially David De Gea. What is he, 300K a week or something?
Oh, more. I think it's 350.
Yeah, so no one's going to spend that money, and I can't see any of the big boys who actually are after a goalkeeper anyway. PSG just got Donnarumma as well, and they've got about 10 people on their books already. But yeah, you'd think that. Look, I don't find that as terrible. I kind of like I said, obviously Romero's not going to be there. And we're going to be like I said, playing 50, 60 plus games a season. We've got the Champions League and all the cup games. I think the biggest challenge is going to be who's going to be our starter. A lot of people were thinking Henderson will start from the season, but I think if he's going to have one strictly for Premier League and a strictly a cup goalkeeper, I don't think it's going to be terrible. Like I said, I think it's just the wages that's crazy. Two keepers on that much money is ridiculous.
Well, Antonio said here both keepers fit again. I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen. Obviously, De Gea had the Euros whose weight Spain obviously didn't play, so I assume he's fit. Coming back, Henderson did pull out.
Henderson's training now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's at the training camp wherever they are in England. But it will be interesting because last year, at the end of last season, we're having the debate when Henderson took the Premier League spot. We were saying, well, Henderson's the number one keeper. But then I came around to the theory, which I sort of heard more and more. Well, Solskjaer was prioritising the Europa League. So, in fact, De Gea playing in the Europa League was a sign that he was the number one keeper. Yeah. However, when you start the season, when we start against Leeds, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, that all gets pushed to the side and the priority will be the Premier League. So that first game against Leeds, if both keepers are fit and available and they're both at the club, will tell us in my mind who Solskjaer's number one is. So just your thoughts on they're a long way to play out in regards to the transfer window. But if you put money on it, are both goalkeepers staying here this season?
Definitely for me. I think they'll definitely both stay.
Yeah, okay. So look, that'll be an interesting thing, but something we'll definitely go on towards. Now, before we wrap up the podcast, again, any comments in the questions, any comments in the comment box, throw it in and we'll try and discuss them before we wrap up. And as we always say, if you can like the video, it would make me and Larry very happy. Make sure you like the video. And if you're not subscribed, please do click subscribe because all our videos on here will be live. So if you click subscribe, whenever we go live, you're notified and then you can obviously join in the chat, etc. Probably a little bit more interactive and enjoyable than watching on repeat, but hopefully you do enjoy it on repeat anyway. So the last question coming in from Twitter was from Brian de Groot, saying some of Ollie's, this is an interesting one, Robert Thready, we haven't really discussed it recently, but some of Ollie's biggest wins in his first season came with the back five with Luke Shaw at that sort of left centre-back role, like Chelsea away, where we beat them 2-0. He hasn't really used it since, doesn't seem to want to set up in the formations like that to frustrate teams anymore. The record against top six declined last season. Do you think visiting that five at the back is worth revisiting? I'm just thinking, let's say we bring in Rafael Varane. Can you see a situation where we can almost look at our defensive sort of players as our strong point in the team then? So you could have three defenders and your potentially best left back in Europe in Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Alex Telles, if you wanted. So you potentially see our five at the back is a very strong point of the team. So why not utilise having more of those players in the team? Can you see a situation where that happens, or he is really trying to revert to a more attacking system?
I think, like I said, Ollie's come in and, like I said, I think the crowd, number one, has been on their back all the time about we want to attack, we want 4-3-3. So that's one thing he's got to deal with. But as a coach, look, why not? I think he's got to, again, like the people said last year, we didn't have the best against the top six, the best record. If he's going, it's an option for him. Like I said, having especially Alex Telles, because he's more known for his attack than his defense. So I could see Luke Shaw dropping back into a back three, having Telles there, you Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, it's quite possible, man. It's just I'd say maybe it'll be more tactical against who we're playing and what formation they're playing, I guess.
Well, Solskjaer does, again, maybe not so much last season, and I think he even made the point where results may have changed against Man City, but the performances, I think there was one game we lost against Man City or had a draw. I think it might have been a 0 draw towards the start. And he said the performance was a lot better. Okay, the result wasn't as good as last year, but the performance was a lot better. It was a lot more, because usually when you play against City, your back's to the wall and you're defending for 96 minutes of the game. But against City, when we had that disappointing draw, I wouldn't say we dominated, but we're on the front foot and we're attacking, and Solskjaer was pleased with that. But ultimately then, okay, do you want that attacking 4-3-3 formation and good football, or do you want the five at the back and negative football, but you pick up 3 points? There is that balance, and Man United fans never seem to be happy with it.
He's played it a few times in Europe too, I believe, the five at the back or whatever, and it's worked on certain games. So it's an option for him.
Well, George has just put up here, just before I wrap up the podcast, is the back three a way to fit Lindelof, Maguire and Varane into the same 11? And it definitely would be. But that's what I'm saying in terms of fitting personnel in, Rob. Just if you're playing Football Manager and you want to fit your best players in,
Who are you dropping?
Luke Shaw at left centre back, Maguire in the middle, and Varane at the right. You think ultimately, okay, look, you study Italian defenders and Bonucci and Chiellini and all players like that. Could you see that as a back three and thinking? No, I'm not going to say the best back three in Europe, but on paper you could almost make a case that it would be.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've seen it. Like Conte, for instance, at Chelsea, he played 3-4-3, and it worked wonders for him. Again, Pogba, when he was at Juventus, he played in the 3-5-2, and if you've got the midfield and you've got the wing backs that are happy to go up and down, it's definitely effective. So yeah, it's definitely an option, man. I personally don't see Oli going for that as a week in, week out thing. I would think it would be against certain teams only. I think he'll definitely go in with a 4-3-3, and hopefully it all works out for us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that wraps up about 20 minutes, and I thought just something just to break up the sort of monotony of lockdown, something for people to get involved with. So hopefully everyone did enjoy that. Now, we did thank you, first of all, for all the feedback on the podcast we did yesterday with a good mate of mine, Luis Lobo, Brazilian footballer living here in Sydney. We did upload that to our podcast apps, but we're just having a little bit of trouble with the Spotify version. It's uploaded on all the other platforms, but Spotify, it's seemingly taken its time to upload. Hopefully it's up very soon. But if you are waiting for that podcast and you are a Spotify user, just a bit of patience. I have no idea what's happening, but we're trying to work on that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and interacting in the comments and sending comments through on Twitter, etc. Making sure, obviously, you do like the video, as we mentioned earlier. Obviously, go to the link in the description and follow Rob's YouTube channel, IFT. It's always a tongue twister for me. IFT. It's a football thing. I'll just say that. It's a football thing podcast. And, as I said, it's good. Obviously, Rob represents us and United very well. Unfortunately, has a few Arsenal and Chelsea mates on there. But they do have a very big episode coming next week with, obviously, Fabrizio Romano. So make sure you go give them a follow. And, look, it's lockdown. We are going nowhere. So likely tomorrow night we'll be online and have something to discuss. I'll say pretty much every episode it'll be the Jadon Sancho unveiling. Who knows? But actually, just for that, Rob, you see that obviously we're discussing our group chat. It might not be the number 7 shirt. It might be the number 16 shirt for Sancho.
I know. I was thinking the same. And look, whatever. I think it could be a nice thing for Cavani. Like he's come in, he's kind of broken the curse. It'll be nice to see him as the number 7 in front of a full Old Trafford. And it's only like I said, Sancho's going to be our future. He's going to be there 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure he's happy enough to wait a year for the number 7. But I just, for me personally, like 16 is weird. Like I would have preferred him to be at like 17. Maybe Fred could have given up the 17 like his number for England. But if I was to buy a Sancho jersey, I don't know. It'd be weird. Sancho 16 for me. I would think I'd wait the extra year and wait for a Sancho 7.
Look, 16 is a number. Obviously, my number is number 8, but number 16 was a big number for me growing up. Obviously, it's Roy Keane. When I first came into first grade, I was wearing number 16. Michael Carrick was a good player. Marcus Rojo sort of sent it a little bit down, but I did love Rojo, but yeah, a little bit weird. But it is a weird for an attacking player. But who knows? Time will tell. I'm sure we'll have an answer. Again, I always say we should have an answer by the end of the week, but who knows? But again, thank you everyone for enjoying the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will chat to you very likely this time tomorrow. So cheers, Rob.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.